Imagine, if you will, travelling into that railway tunnel just there and the train breaking down midway.
Now imagine opening the doors for your escape and stepping out
into a canal. Imagine that tunnel being split into two.
Imagine a mortar being fired into that tunnel.
It's got quite a lot of history. All that and more in this week's video.
And also, thank you to Pouch that's made this video possible. More on that later.
So this is Higham railway station. It was built in February 1845. Now it stands just to the northwest of these two tunnels, Higham and Strood Tunnels. Now, not only did they used to be one tunnel, but they were also built 20 years before the railway track was even laid here. How was that possible? So let's take ourselves back to 1800. So canal mania was in full swing. Railways hadn't quite got there just yet. So the Thames and Medway Canal Company was born with the goal of trying to connect their namesake, the Thames up that way and the Medway inlet just down there. Now, much of the west end of that still remains today, and of course there's quite a lot of abandoned bits too, which has certainly seen better days. Progress on the canal was very slow despite this 1800 Act, largely because they couldn't decide upon a route. Now, for a canal that was supposed to be only 6-7 miles long, that seems like a really strange thing. You'd think, but they had an issue, which was this. A not insignificant chalk ridge between Higham and Strood. Now, if you're only building a 6 or 7 mile canal, you don't want to be blowing a large proportion of your budget on digging a tunnel through that. But as the years progressed and more acts were introduced, a tunnel was more and more likely. And by 1824, the fifth and final act saw this canal open. And of course it included that tunnel, a 4,012 yard dead straight tunnel. Now, its dead straight alignment was not unique, but what was unique, at least as far as I can tell, is that it wasn't lined with anything at all. They deemed that the chalk they bored through was strong enough that no brick was required. This also gave the tunnel an incredible amount of light, especially as it was dead straight. So all is well. We have a canal tunnel, we have a 20-foot wide canal tunnel with a 6-foot towpath, so what could possibly go wrong? Well, unfortunately, traffic could only travel in one direction. It couldn't pass within the tunnel, and therefore the tunnel became a bottleneck for the canal almost immediately. Traffic flow had to be strictly timed, and of course if you missed your time slot, you could be waiting at one end for hours. Within a few years, in fact within a decade, they decided that a solution was required. Traffic on the canal was very poor. So would this new approach work?
So I have a hole in my bag.
Like the nursery rhyme.
What?
I've got a hole in my bag. Dear Liza, dear Liza.
That's bucket.
No, it's not.
It is.
It's bag.
It's bucket. Anyway. Luckily, I have already downloaded the free desktop browser extension.
Pouch. We've used Pouch a lot over the last couple of years.
Yep.
And we've talked about Pouch before for good reason.
Pouch automatically pops up and applies the best discount codes while you're shopping.
So a new bucket
bag
was required. So we popped onto a number of different sites, including ASOS, and lo and behold, Pouch pops up and applies its codes for you. And in this instance, it saved us a whopping 10%.
So I can carry on carrying things in my bag.
Bucket. More importantly, Pouch works on over 3,000 UK-based websites, including Tesco's, Game, Currys, Domino's and all the others listed just here.
Which is more than any other similar UK-based browser extension.
Pouch only takes a couple of clicks to install, and don't forget to pin it to your browser.
And if you like your Black Friday shopping and you want to do that online, Pouch is a must. There's no reason not to download it. It's completely free, just click on the link
in the doobly-doo below. So halfway down the tunnel, the geography of the land allowed them to sort of dig it out, if you will, and open out the tunnel. This was a 150-yard section, and it allowed the boats to pass each other in what was effectively the centre of the tunnel. But of course now there's two, and you have Higham Tunnel and Strood Tunnel. So now you know the era, you probably know what's coming next. 1844, and the Gravesend and Rochester Railway and Canal Company was born, and they wanted to lay a track along pretty much the same route, which was great until they got to the tunnel. So when they got to the tunnel, they decided that they had a towpath. Well, that was a perfect track bed if there ever was. But of course, that hung over the canal. So they had to place stilts into the canal to pop this new track on it. So if you can imagine, they now have a railway and a canal in the same tunnel. Now that's as curious a mishmash of Victorian invention I've ever seen. So don't forget, the tunnel at this stage isn't lined. So what do? Well, the Board of Trade decided to test it. They would fire a few blank mortars at the lining, as you do. Amazingly, it stood up to these tests, and all they advised was a couple of places could do with some brick lining. Now, for the next 2 or 3 years, this bizarre practice of having both trains and canal barges share the tunnel continued. And the locals were, of course, fascinated by this, and they kept on opening the doors of the trains as it went into the tunnel. Subsequently, the doors would break and fly off and injure people. So the only way to get around this was, of course, to lock the doors on the walling side. And this, of course, meant that if the train were to break down in the tunnel, you'd have to get out on the canal side and subsequently step into the canal. This stopped a few years later when South Eastern Railway obtained an act to take over the line completely. They double tracked it, they dug out the canal, took the water out, and of course it's now in the condition that it remains today. Right, thanks for watching this week's video, folks. We will see you next Sunday, 5 PM as usual.